Now we're looking at random samples. So when we are looking at data, that data has to come from somewhere. Oftentimes people are surveyed to gather information. If we are surveying a group of people, those people are called the population that you're asking. And so to save time, we can't ask the entire population, so we would just ask a sample of the population. Sometimes you get a biased sample, and sometimes you get an unbiased sample. Let's talk about what those mean. So unbiased samples are valid type of sampling. It's valid because this represents, I'm going to turn the page, unbiased samples represent the entire population. So the entire group, it represents the entire group of type of people being asked. On the other hand, biased samples are not a valid method of sampling. We say that this is not a valid representation of sampling because parts of the population are favored. So we're asking a piece of the population, not necessarily representative of the entire population. So they give us some examples. A simple random sample, we're asking each item or person in the population is just as likely to be chosen as any other. So 50 airline passengers are randomly selected by a computer. Oftentimes, if you hear anything about random selection, it's usually an unbiased sample. The items or people are selected according to a specific time or item interval. Every 10th student entering the school is chosen. That would be an unbiased sample. A biased sample might be, instead of choosing every 10th student that enters the school to represent students attending the school, if they're asking about band, but they ask every 10th student entering the band hall, well, all of a sudden, this is a convenience sample. We're only asking people walking into the band hall about band. Of course, they're going to have a bias because they're in the band hall. So if you are asking based on convenience of easily accessible, location, family, that's convenience. Or a voluntary random sample, a voluntary response sample involves those who want to participate in the program. So customers who wish to express their opinions complete an online survey. Well, that's not representative of all people. Those are only people that wanted to respond. So we're going to look at a few examples, determine whether the conclusion is valid, justify your reasoning. So number one, to determine how often people eat out, every 5th person entering a fast food restaurant is surveyed. Out of 100 people surveyed, 60 eat out more than 3 times a week. It was concluded that most people eat out more than 3 times a week. Is this a valid representation of the population? It's asking about all people wanting to eat out, and they only surveyed people at a fast food restaurant. I would say this is not valid. This is a biased convenience sample. People at fast food restaurants probably like to eat out. So you're asking people who are eating out, how often do you eat out? Well, that doesn't represent all of the population because some people may not go out and eat 3 times a week, but you didn't ask them because they weren't out to eat at the moment. Number 2, the table shows the restaurants. Last problem. Okay. The table shows the results of a random sample of students at a high school about their studying preferences. It is concluded that half the students prefer to study alone. For one, in the problem, they said that it was a random sample, so there was no only asking specific people maybe in the library who were already studying if they prefer to study alone. It was asking a random sample of the entire population of students about in high school, what are their study preferences. This is a simple random sample. It is valid and represents the entire population of the high school.